Like I said, I'm Marvin.
I'm Janesta.
There you go, Marvin and Janesta Fant. And we're going to be talking about the Tyree Nichols beating, the price of eggs, the passing of Cindy Williams, and Tom Brady retiring. So let's start with Tyree Nichols. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of the Tyree Nichols situation, whereas he was stopped by 5 police officers in a traffic stop in Memphis, Tennessee. And he was stopped. The police officer said he was recklessly driving. Now, when he was pulled over, he could be heard saying that, what did I do? They pulled him out of the car, violently spoke to him. They roughed him up, and they beat him so bad that he was in a hospital for 3 days, and then he died from his injuries. That's how bad they beat him. And now I know, Janesta, you chose not to watch it. And why was that?
I chose not to watch it because just hearing different people's take on it, or better yet, just people just telling me about the video, about him, how they were beating him. And I think at one moment they said that he pretty much called for his mother. As a mother, we have seen this happen before.
Right.
I think it was the George Floyd incident, where he called for his mother. And so as a mother, that just moves on my heart, and I can't see another person be beaten like that and asking for help, but especially calling on their mother. And, it's kind of like you put yourself in that situation.
Right.
So, yeah, I couldn't watch it. No.
And as they were beating him, now when I first saw this, I was like, no, this seems kind of personal, because the way a couple of the officers, they were like winding up with their fists and then just putting it all into it.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, this is, like I said, this seems really, really personal. And aside from that, now I recall you said that you saw
I saw a reading where it found out that one of the officers had dated the young lady that Tyree was previously dating, and putting that connection together. When you said that it seemed personal, then I was like, okay, so it had to be personal, because I guess he just maybe didn't like the fact that his ex, because it was his ex who had been dating Tyree, and got his buddies together to go after him. And so that's pretty much what I saw. But come to find out, they did work at the same place, Tyree and the officer's ex.
And the ex.
Yes.
Wow. Now, and I heard this from somebody else, but yet I'm not hearing enough of that from the national news sources.
Right.
But that would lead credence to why they pulled him over like that, and also now I heard that, I forget the name, but they were a special unit within the police department, and they had started about maybe a year ago, so it hadn't been implemented that long.
Right.
And and listening to that, as far as getting that information, if you're a special unit you've got no business really pulling over somebody for a random traffic stop.
Not just a traffic stop now.
Because that pretty much, if you, and especially if you watch cop shows, like I'm throw that in there, that would be beneath them.
Right.
To them, they would have more important stuff to go after, more bigger fish to fry, so to speak.
Exactly.
So that would, that also made them seem suspect. Okay, it's 5 of y'all. You pull him over and proceed to beat the crap out of him. So, I know some people would say, well, why'd he run? Well, first of all, in that situation, you're being pulled over like that.
You don't know what's going on.
Right. And I'm sure he's thinking, well, I didn't do anything wrong, because he said, what did I do?
Right.
So, yeah, in that situation, I can see a man running from the cops because the way he was pulled over.
Right.
And then the gall, and I would say the idiocy of them also, is you pull him over, and yeah, it's at night, but it's not like you pull him over, you handcuff him, put him in the car, and take him to some remote place because you know what you're about to do.
Right.
But you're going to do your dirty deed right there.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it, about 3 houses down from his mother's house? I'm like, okay, so now you gotten so big-headed and high and mighty, I don't care where I'm going to do my dirty deed at. And knowing how, and I liken this to the Wild West, old Wild West, whereas everybody had a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these days everybody has a cell phone.
Right.
Either a cell phone, or you got people with what's that called? Ring doorbells, where you got cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, we don't have a ring, but we got a camera at our door.
Right.
So there are cameras everywhere. There are cameras at stoplights, and they're from the position that I saw. It was from a light, a camera light, whatever you would want to call it, but it wasn't coming from their body cam or police car. So to use a big word here, the unmitigated gall to even do this.
I think that there was only one police officer that had a body cam, and that's where they were able to get footage of part of what happened to Tyree, but all the other officers that was involved, none of them happened to have on their body cams per se, and maybe they didn't have body cams because they were not supposed to be actually out on the street, because that was not their job. What were you pursuing? Right. It's not like you're called to a scene of an accident, or you're called to anything, and you would definitely have on your body cam, but you really was not on duty to be on the street. Mm-hmm. So, and then so that lets me know that if you didn't have your body cam on, you weren't supposed to be out there.
Right.
Or if you didn't have it on, then you had something else in mind.
Right.
By not turning it on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And my thing is that as African Americans, we already have to suffer this being beat by white officers,
right,
and being hurt by white officers, but then to be pursued and hurt by your own, it takes it to another level. Right.
And that's what shocked me when I first heard about it, and then I saw all 5 of them, and I heard D.L. Hughley say this, whereas they looked like they were they were arrest ready. Yeah. Just from the mug shots. Yeah. Like they had been through this before.
Right.
But it saddened me. All five were black, but it also made me realize that there's another twist to racism, that we expect white, but there are times when it's from our own also, because we don't value our own lives in that perspective.
Exactly.
With black on black violence, black on black shootings, in this particular situation with police officers. And I remember seeing old movies from the 70s and whatnot, and they were showing black officers, say, out in L.A., and it was a particular movie that comes to mind, whereas the black officers were more violent toward the people in the community than the white officers were in this particular movie I was watching. I can't remember it right now. But there it's kind of like the racism towards us from other black people when it comes to, it's just another, and I'm using the word, it's just another nigga, whereas nobody's going to care, or nobody's, it's going to be under the radar. We can get away with this.
Right.
Because that's a perception that a black person is going to be on the lower end of the totem pole,
Right.
in terms of investigating, rather as opposed to a white person.
Yeah.
So, and then to flip that around even more, whereas there was a white officer who came on the scene a little after that,
Right.
and there was also a fire chief or lieutenant, and a female. She was black, another black person from the fire department, and they got fired in lieu of their lack of response with Tyree Nichols.
Because I think it took about, after they got on the scene, I recall that it took even 7 minutes for them to even administer care to him.
Right.
So it wasn't that you go right on the scene and just start taking care of the man. You, I guess, have a conversation with whomever, but your main goal, not only to make sure your officer okay, but you uphold the law. You vowed being in those positions to take care of everybody. It doesn't matter what has been done or what has been said. You've got to take care of everybody. Waiting 7 minutes and knowing this man has been beaten, you can look at him and you can tell that he's been beaten. You can tell he's been harmed. And
you can see on the video he was unattended. Nobody was around him. He was moaning and groaning in pain.
So, these are the parts. Though I haven't seen it, but I did see the I think it was D.L. Hughes or someone that was talking about it. So I was able to see that part of the news, and it's just a travesty that that you can't trust the people that is supposed to help you.
Right. In all fronts.
In all fronts. From the fire department to the police department to the medics, whoever. Right. You can't trust people to do what they're supposed to do. Right.
And I kind of lost my train of thought right there. Oh yeah. Now I'm about to wrap this up on this particular side. Whereas they were immediately, now see, this is the kind of thing that we look for when white officers are involved. When all 5 black officers were fired, the 2 with the fire department, they were fired. Right. Okay, swift justice, because normally we'd have to wait several months just for an indictment to be thrown at them.
Yeah. Investigation.
And then, you'd hear Fox News come in and say, well, we have to weigh in on everything, right. or even those of the police department, we have to wait for all the evidence to come in, blah, blah, blah. But yet it was done just like that, lickety split.
Yep, just like that. So
that made a red flag come up on every black person. Right. If that's aware of these things, because because some of y'all are still in the closet on some things, so I'm not going to get into that. But it immediately, it raised my antenna on that. I'm like, okay, now it was bad that now he got beat like that and was murdered, so to speak.
Yes.
But on the flip side, now it's kind of like you're playing devil's advocate. You want to see that quick, action, but at the same time, you can't overlook this.
Can't overlook it.
Whereas, okay, now we get this, but is it going to be the same moving forward for white cops? Because really, in that same instance, we got one white cop out there who was not fired.
Right.
Even though, he wasn't placed at the scene while the beatdown was occurring.
Right. He wasn't placed at the scene because this was something because you got to remember Tyree was stopped twice.
Mm-hmm.
The first stop was, the white officer was present, but then he left. But then the other 5 black officers pursued him. And so that's when the beating began.
Mm-hmm.
And as you stated earlier, it was personal. It was premeditated. Mm-hmm. I don't think they intended for it to go this far, but because they pursued him on purpose to harm him, the man died. I think they should all get premeditated murder.
Now, with the white officer, he was heard saying, this is when Tyree ran, and because he was the one who had tased him.
Right.
He said, I hope when he got away, he thought he got away. He said, I hope they beat the blank out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, that's insightful language right there.
Right.
And again, see, he should have been fired also because I mean the people from the fire department were fired. Mm-hmm. So why not him?
See, what I can't understand is why such a code within these group of people. Why is it, as Martin Luther King stated, evil prevails when people just don't open their mouth and when people just shut their mouth, don't say anything. I'm paraphrasing it the way I'm seeing it.
I understand. Mm-hmm.
But people just stand back and you keep your mouth closed.
Just like with George Floyd.
Yes. You don't intervene just because you work with these people that it's okay. No, it's not okay. Mm-hmm. And you got to step back and you got to open your mouth and say, this is not right. Take whatever needs to be taken, because there's sometimes in this life that we're going to have to stand up and we're going to have to stand for what is right. It doesn't matter what people say about us. It doesn't matter what people think about us. At the end of the day, and when this life is over, the one that it's going to really matter to is when you stand before our Father in heaven and He's going to ask you, why didn't you do this? Or why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And none of these people are going to stand with you.
Right.
And so you got to open your mouth. You can't see injustice going on right in front of you and not open your mouth.
Right. And it also goes with the with those 5 officers. Now, one was the ringleader, obviously, because he got the other 4 to go along with him. Mm-hmm. Now that says something or a lack of their character,
right,
where you want to follow behind this man because he has a beef with Tyree Nichols, who Tyree didn't even know this man.
Didn't even know him.
But you have a beef because he's dating your ex.
Right.
Really? Mm-hmm. Your ex? And you got a beef about that.
Yes.
So, but yet your comrades follow along with you. That was so stupid on their part. So now you're going to do time because you want to help him out.
Because you want to help him.
Do something silly and dumb and reckless.
Exactly.
And that just doesn't make any sense. That's why I always say, and I tell her, no, we got 3 sons. And I always told them, you be the leader.
Right.
You don't be a follower. You be a leader.
Absolutely.
And in lieu of being a leader, you in turn be led by God.
Led by God.
Be led by Jesus.
Amen.
All right, with that in mind, we're going to go to a break, but we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And this segment, we're going to be talking about the price of eggs. I'm sure you're going to love this one. Now, I put a few funny, what was it say? What was it, video? Well, was it some videos, and then some were memes and whatnot. But I did see one where it caught a lot of people's attention. It said, now this is in a Walmart in New York. It said the eggs were what, $14.96, something like that. And then right above it said low prices.
Yeah.
Come on now, this is a carton of eggs. A carton of eggs, almost basically $15, because once you put the taxes in there, it's $15.
It's $15
for some doggone eggs. And I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, what are we coming to?
Well, I remember past Christmas, I actually had went and picked up some eggs, just maybe a week or two before Christmas, and they were not that expensive.
Right.
So our son was coming home with the grandbabies for Christmas, and I thought, okay, let me just go get another carton of eggs just to make sure that we have enough. This was Christmas Eve day. And so I went to the store. I grabbed the carton of eggs, and I thought, wait a minute. And I started looking around because I'm thinking, well, somebody made a mistake and they put the wrong price here.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, am I being punked? Because this don't seem right. So I grabbed the eggs, go to the register, and I said, I think the price on these eggs are wrong. And so she was like, no, ma'am. She said, that's how much they are. And I thought, okay, we in trouble. The eggs just went from being $1 and some change up to $4. Actually, I think they probably would have, I think they was more like $6 at that time for a carton of eggs. So I thought, okay, what is...
Because I have seen in some places around here, what, $8 or so? Now, we're in Anderson, South Carolina.
Yes.
Just to preface that. But that is just crazy. I mean, I know I saw one, it said, we're going to have to take out a loan.
Yeah.
Just to buy some eggs.
I just saw another one on Facebook last night where this guy had 10 cartons of eggs he carried. And the guy was asking him, he said, man, what are you doing? And he said, well, my girlfriend told me to get her something expensive for Valentine's Day. And he said, so she's getting 10 cartons of eggs.
Oh, yeah, that's expensive, all right. I don't know if she's going to like it, but that's expensive.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Don't you bring me any eggs for Valentine's Day.
All right. Just messed me up on that one. Yeah. Just had that idea.
Huh.
All right, moving along here. You remember Laverne and Shirley, right?
Yeah.
No, I used to watch it. You know,
Loved
it used to come on Thursday nights on ABC, or I think it was also on Tuesdays. Well, Cindy Williams passed away at the age of 75, and she was Shirley.
Yes.
Of the Laverne and Shirley, and Laverne, who was Penny Marshall. She passed away in
I think it was like 2019, 2020.
I think it was 18.
2018. Hadn't been that long ago, though. I know. Maybe about 4 years ago.
I mean, I was thinking it was like a year ago, but I was wrong on that.
Right.
But so if we got the year wrong, just let us know.
Yes.
Keep us in check. But anyway, I was sad to hear her passing, and plus sad to hear Cindy Williams passing. It lets you know that time waits for no one.
Right.
We look at our families and the people that have passed on that were ahead of us, and now we're moving up the ladder, so to speak, but still very, very much vital.
Yeah. and what I loved about those shows is that they were clean. They were funny.
Yeah.
And it's something that the whole family could sit down and watch.
Right.
And you don't get those clean type shows
And,
anymore.
and that's the thing. Whereas, and some say subject or whatever was mentioned on those shows would not be looked upon as being clean today,
Right.
which is weird because there's so much stuff out here today that I would not even dare to say or think. You know, is like even saying the S word. I would you know what I'm saying,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
That would not even be a thought of being mentioned on those shows from back then.
Exactly.
But yet you can freely say it now, which is, I think, is crazy.
Yes.
But yet the standards have flip-flopped.
It has.
You know?
And when you think about it, the Bible speaks about it anyway, about how things will be during, coming of the end times, how people will become lovers of themselves, and what they will call right, they will call wrong, and what they wrong will become right. So, it shows you how the times are changing, and
for the worse to be.
And for the worse to be, exactly. And so, no fear of God, no value of family, especially what your children watch or grandchildren watch on TV. So, times are really changing.
And speaking of changing times, I'm glad you kind of made that little segue for me on this one. Tom Brady retiring for the second time. He retired last year, and it took 40 plus days for him to unretire, which in lieu basically led to his subsequent divorce, because his wife Gisele Bündchen, she basically wanted him to retire. But he felt like he still had more left in him. And he had said from the start he was going to play until 45. And he's 45 now. So, I don't know. It's one of those things whereas if that's what his call was initially, to play till 45, just let him play it out.
Just let him
play it out. I mean,
yeah.
Because again, playing sports, that's not something you're going to be able to do, your whole life anyway.
Right. and I think when you really, really love something, like Tom Brady, loving what he does, it's hard for anybody to give up, what they love.
Especially if you continue to do it at a very high level.
At a very high level, yes. And you're good at it.
Right.
And so, but, I can see how that it becomes hard. But I can also see how your family just needs you. I mean, you've provided everything that you can provide for them, but things get to a point where it's not about the things. It's about that time and spending that quality time with your loved one and being there. And so, and putting them first. A lot of times we can say we put family first. But, as with anybody that does the sport, any type of sport or whatever, most likely they're going to put that job first. And then everything else becomes second.
Yeah.
And so...
Especially if you're highly successful at it like that.
At it like that, yeah.
And before we end this, I just wanted to mention, I noticed some broadcasters that, they kind of make jokes and saying that, or even comedians are making jokes saying, he's doing this, he's going into retirement for the umpteenth time. No, this is only the second time. Stop. Y'all stop. Come on. Michael Jordan retired more times than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But they make it seem like, he did it so many times, and they make it sound like they're tired of hearing about it. He did it one time. He changed his mind one time. That was it.
Well, I would say this: if you don't want to hear it, just don't listen to it.
So I'm like, stop overplaying.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
But anyway, because in reality, no, I don't think he's coming back. Especially, even though statistically, he had he had a good year, but in Tom Brady, with Tom Brady, his standard of excellence is so high that he ended the year with the team ended the year with an 8-10 record. So that is not very Brady like.
Right.
Even though they made the playoffs with that record, but it was in a very weak division.
Okay.
So I'm sure he would have liked to have ended on a better note than that. But hey, he's a 7-time Super Bowl champ.
Yeah, hey.
No, nothing to sneeze about on that. Nothing, no slouch on that.
Right.
So, the best of endeavors to him, and maybe sometime in the future, because we were big on this about getting back with your wife. And who knows?
Hopefully it'll work out.
Right.
Yes.
But hey, that's the end of this particular show. Tell others about it, share it, like it, whatever. But there'll definitely be more to come. Enough said.
Enough said.